So, what are demographic variables? Demographic variables are factors in our data used to describe basic person characteristics of our sample. Why we need them? Because we want to understand what our sample looks like and how that compares to our generalized population. And the demographic variables also describe the nature and distribution of the sample used with inferential statistics. The demographic variables are usually described in the sample subsection of the method session in your lab report or at the beginning of the result session. So, what kind of demographics do we report? Usually we want to report race, gender, age, year, SES, which is socio-demographic status, What are descriptives? Descriptives are summary data results that describe characteristics of the variables of interest in the sample overall. So we can use descriptive statistics to answer a lot of questions, like what was the demographic makeup of your sample? What was the distribution of your variables of interest? So your independent and dependent variables. And also, on average, how did the sample score on key variables? What did most participants report on given a variable? However, these questions do not involve your research hypothesis. There are different types of descriptives that require different types of descriptive analysis. For categorical variables, these are variables with different levels that define as groups with no equal exact difference in value. There are different kinds of categorical variables. The first kind is the nominal. So the nominal categorical variables are just categories. They do not have value. For example, race, gender, occupation. And the second type of categorical variables is ordinal categorical variable, that each category has a relational value, such as education level, clothing sizes, income, and SES level. And to calculate the distribution of categorical variables, we have N, that is group sizes in each group, and we also have the percentages. So frequencies and percentages. The percentages are like how many percent of females are in the total sample, how many percent of non-Hispanic whites were in the total, or of the total sample. In addition to categorical variables, we also have continuous variables that are variables with levels that have values of equal distance. One kind of continuous variables is interval variable that ranks with a standard measurement from negative to positive. And one example of interval variable is temperature. And another kind of continuous variable is racial that ranks with a standard measurement where 0 indicates no value. For example, age, weight, and height, they're all racial. We also like to use Likert scales, that is like from 1 to 5, 1 means extremely unlikely and 5 means extremely likely. These are called Likert scale. So we use this kind of Likert scales as continuous variables, even though they're technically a categorical variable. That's ordinal. Because we don't know the actual distance between extremely unlikely to somewhat unlikely. So we don't know if this distance is different from somewhat likely to extremely likely. To describe the continuous variables, we use two types of descriptive analysis. The first one is means. That's also the average of the total scores. And the second type of descriptive statistics is standard deviation, which is the measure of the amount of variation of the set of values. A low standard deviation indicates that the values tend to be close to the mean of the set, and a high standard deviation indicates that the values are spread out over a wider range.